Hey, how you doing, Chris?
Hello, good sir. How are you today?
Hey, man, I am great, man. I am great. I am so happy that I have you on today to
Outstanding.
ask you some questions about your experience in what I like to call getting in front of gentrification, especially here in the Atlanta area. It gets a lot of press. Gentrification gets a lot of press in the Atlanta area. And we always talk about Grant Park and little
Hmm.
and Fourth Ward and other parts of Atlanta that are just constantly changing, and
Right, right.
and people of our ilk are being pushed out. So I'm happy to hear your story of you getting in front of it, if you actually being able to take advantage of gentrification, and you were not a you did not, you bought that house beforehand. Can you tell us just a little bit? Actually, let's introduce you to the audience. Can
All
you
right,
please
fair enough.
introduce yourself?
All right. Well, my name's Chris Baldwin. I was originally born in Newark, New Jersey. Just after about nine-ish, my family decided to move to South Carolina, and I stayed there a whole lot of time. So technically, I'm a Southerner at this point, but we moved to Georgia around 98-ish, 97, 98-ish. And it was mostly for job opportunities. My dad moved down first to get himself established, and then he had the rest of the family come move down. So, our time in Georgia has always been based around, what can we afford to live on, because, we initially had to live with family. Uh, he and his sister initially moved down to Georgia, and there were just so many more job opportunities here than there were in South Carolina. It's a very seasonal sort of place. Very nice, but it's hard to find quality jobs there. But so my dad and had moved down, and then my mom and my sibling moved down later. Um, and so we've been here since. I work in the IT field. We both work at Georgia Tech, but prior to that, I was working at Clayton State University, which was a lot of fun. So with regards to purchasing the home that we purchased, we initially started off living with other family members because we were renting a home in Riverdale, and it was nice. We stayed there for a few years. We were actually renting the home from uh, my in-laws basically. So my wife and I got married in, whew, wow, was it 2006? Good gracious, I feel that old creeping up on me.
No, don't
Anyway,
worry.
we got married around 2006, and my in-laws had a second home that they were renting out, and so me and a couple of coworkers initially, and eventually other family members were renting the home, and it was large enough and it worked out well. But of course, when you stay with people for too long, you just feel like it's time to move out on my own, and I really felt that we had got to that point. Now, keep in mind, I've been working at Clayton State University, so I wasn't making a whole lot of money, but I did have consistent income coming in. So what we realized is that, and also through my church at the time, there's a program called DACA, and sorry, I said DACA, NACA, not DACA. That's the other one. So NACA is a program that we started with because we were told it's a very great program for helping you get your credit squared away so you can start making better decisions about what you want to do with regards to purchasing a home. So if you get the chance, NACA.com is the site, but effectively they help you figure out your finances. They help you plan on a budget. They walk you through a series of steps and workshops that effectively trains you in areas that you may not have been trained in, just because whether it's family backgrounds where financial things weren't discussed, or if it was a situation where you just made some bad decisions in the past and you got yourself in a lot of debt. That was a program that we started and it was going really well, but it helped me understand that between the debt that my wife and I had at the time and my income, it didn't make a lot of sense to try to purchase an expensive house. It was very clear to me that I could not afford like $150,000, $200,000 house. And at the time, I just wasn't at the point where that was feasible at all. So we kind of just sat on it, but we were still going through the program because I saw the value in it. And they help you determine they help you out with the closing fees. They help you process all they help you figure out what the market rates are and help you find a loan that'll help you through that program. And I think the idea is, if you are in a situation where you have financial literacy, which a lot of people just flat out don't have when it comes to purchasing a house, you are less likely to be someone who will basically run into scenarios where you're just going to throw the house away and walk away, or something go wrong because you purchased way more of a house than you could afford. So I've always appreciated that organization and the work that they were doing. But so, we just were sitting on it at that point. We just decided, all right, well, we'll buy a house some point in the future. So we had been looking at Atlanta because I really love the Atlanta area. And we saw like just everything we couldn't afford there. But there was also things that were happening in Decatur. And that's when we found out about the neighborhood stabilization program. So through a friend of ours, she knew a realtor who was trying to get basically people involved in this program. And the neighborhood stabilization program, keep in mind, this is around 2010-ish, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So around the 2010 to 2012 era is where stuff really happened for us. So our friend told us about this program, and we still were just like, we'll get a house eventually. So we found out about this program, and effectively what they do is they find either blighted homes or homes that have been foreclosed or abandoned from the 2008, everything that just fell out during that housing market crash that happened during that time. And so what they were doing is trying to revitalize the Decatur area. So at the time, my neighborhood specifically was an area that just honestly wasn't that great. There was a whole lot of crime in the area. This was prior to us purchasing the home. So this was an area that it just had a whole lot of homes that had been abandoned and things like that. So we didn't know about this program. We just got told about it. And I think we had a series of very fortunate events that led us to being in the right place at the right time. We made good decisions through proxy and just sheer dumb luck, honestly. But as we continued in this program, we found out that they had what I think was called a silent loan, which was, if you promise to stay in the house for at least 3 years, in addition to don't lease out the house to other people or don't treat it as a rental property, then they would take on portions of the loan. So, and I don't mind telling you, but my home initially is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home, and I think it's just under what is it? I think it's just under 1,000 square feet. So it's not that big of a home. It was just me and my wife at the time and our daughter. It was 2 at the time. So the idea was we would purchase this home, and we hadn't really planned on having any other kids, so it seemed like a great idea.
Yeah.
So I'll come back to this in a moment. So we went ahead and went along and signed the loan. We inspected the house. There was a larger house that was also available, There was several in this program. We went around to see them with the realtor. So one of the homes still had a whole lot of damage that they were still working on. And me being short-sighted, I was like, yeah, it looked like a murder happened at this place. I'm not sure if I can handle this place. But the home we ended up settling on was, it had just been refurbished with, it had just recently had a new roof put on, it had new plumbing and electrical work done. So it was a nice little cozy bungalow sort of place. And the neighborhood stabilization program worked by, as I stated, they'll take a chunk of they'll do a silent loan, I think is what it was called. And they will, as long as you commit to those terms, you'll be able to purchase this home, and they'll take off whatever amount at the end of 3 years, I believe. Um, so that worked out really well for us. And looking back, it all happened within like a month, maybe. Like, we were kind of at a point where we're like, I kind of want a house to be nice. All of a sudden, like, I'm hyperventilating because I'm signing paperwork, and I feel like, oh God, I'm becoming an adult because I'm purchasing a house. But and the thing is we were still trying to pay off our debt, but we were fortunate enough to have a family member who was willing to give us like I think it was like a $1,500 loan, which was the cost of everything we needed to do. So, and I know I'm rambling at this point, but
keep going.
All after we filled out the paperwork, we were moving into the area. We had went around and looked at the neighborhood. It was during the middle of the day, so we were thinking, wow, this isn't too bad of a neighborhood, because it wasn't, I guess no one was home at the time. The night we moved in, it seems that there was like yelling and screaming and outside, somebody fighting. We were like, oh, well, we've been bamboozled. But it actually is a outstanding neighborhood. I mean, there are some areas that were of the neighborhood that are a little, there are areas of concern, but in general, this is a great and improving area. And the crazy thing is, when I went to go get my security system put in, the guy who came out, he told us, like, this area has changed, because when people were first, a few years ago, he wouldn't come through this place in the daytime. This is the security dude telling us this.
Wow.
But it has substantially changed to where it's a very diverse group of people, but it's also very, I guess, inviting is the best way I can describe it. Now, keep in mind, this is also the time that Atlanta is just filling up with people. So we really got into this area, and where we live is just on the outskirts of Atlanta in Decatur. So I'm maybe like a 2 to 3 minute drive away from Atlanta. So with the prices in Atlanta surging, and Atlanta becoming kind of a pretty decent sized tech hub with all the international things that are happening, Atlanta's pretty much full. Well, at this time was full. So you had to start looking at other areas if you wanted to commute to work and not have a substantial commute. So that's when our neighborhood went from being just the up and coming area to highly sought after homes. So, and I don't mind saying this, like what we paid for our house was, I think, $75K, which fit within our budget amazingly. But as we noticed more homes being bought and more homes being renovated, a lot of initially they start with like the most rundown homes. I'm assuming people will purchase them and renovate them and then resell them. We were starting to realize, well, wait a minute, I think this place is going through gentrification. And what really was wild was like when we first moved in, it was like this hard looking dude walking through the neighborhood with his pit bull. We were like, oh, we know not to mess with that dude. And now we have like dainty little ladies with these little small puppies just jogging through the neighborhood. And we're like, it's definitely happening. It's happening.
Yo,
But
hold on. Because that is the sign of
yeah,
gentrification. It's the
yeah.
dainty white woman. It's walking through the neighborhood, or running through the neighborhood with their dog. That is like I've heard so many people and I've watched so many documentaries about gentrification, and that right there is when people say, "Wow,
It's happening.
it's happening. The property value is about to shoot up."
My wife will tell you this. What I very often do on the weekends is when I see them running through the neighborhood, I'm like that old neighbor that's sitting in the window looking through the blinds, and I'm like, making my property value go up. Young whippersnappers.